Hi everyone, Studio here, welcome back. Today I wanted to introduce a character of mine. She's new to you guys, but I've had her for a while, I just haven't done anything with her. And now she's here today to make her debut as the channel mascot. At least one of them. I'm sure some of my other characters will become staples and they'll be regarded as mascots as well. Anyway, let's go. So, the character's name is Wyvern, and she originally came to me in 2016 when I turned 18 and created my DeviantArt account. Back then, she wasn't Wyvern, she wasn't even a character at all. And a little bit of background before you understand why. I had originally wanted my online handle, Studio Shadows, yeah, we're going with the origin story, to be Shadow Studios. Kind of like putting a hold on an actual studio name, so that if I had wanted to later on, I could make it a legitimate business. However, someone on DeviantArt, who by the way had a completely empty gallery, had already had the name Shadow Studios. And me being 18, I was like, I have waited 2.5 years to make this account under this name. You don't get to have it, it's mine. So in a little petty victory to get around it, I switched the two words, becoming Studio Shadows. And I didn't realize, obviously, that it would not just be a temporary thing. That I wouldn't end up checking back every couple of days to see if they had deleted their account and I could finally become Shadow Studios. Or finding a different moniker to go under. I had no idea it would stick as long as it did. And despite this having started as a petty little thing, I'm really glad that I did that, because the handle has become so much more of me than Shadow Studios ever would have been. Studio Shadows is more of an individual, where Shadow Studios would have been an entire business, and I would have been more separated from it. And that actually prompted the creation of Wyvern, or rather what she came from. So since it was now Studio Shadows, I thought, well, what if I got that from shadows in the studio? So the studio was inhabited by shadows. It was their home. They were shadows that lived in the studio. Studio Shadows. I had the concept that they would be like living beings that could meld together and change their shape, with the predominant ones being a dragon, a fox, and an ibex, which, fun fact, is still my tiny descriptor on DeviantArt. I never changed that. There was no name for the amorphous concept. It was not a character. It was just the embodiment of my digital art in a digital space. The studio shadows that give inspiration. So how did an amorphous concept get here with Wyvern, who is definitely not a dragon, not a fox, not an ibex, and is clearly an actual character? I started YouTube. I had wanted a channel mascot that wasn't one of my story-driven characters. I wanted her to be separate from that. And I figured I should build off of my original idea of those shadows, that amorphous concept, since it was part of my handle history. But it had to be something more than just an amorphous shadow, so I ended up going with a shadow demon, because I also liked that concept. And so she's a shadow demon that, with effort, can change her form, but it's much easier to create, control, and send out shadows. So she still has that dragon, fox, ibex thing with her. She can still control the shadows that are in the studio. She can be in multiple places at once because of that, but she has a definite form. At least until she puts in great effort to change it. So I started the character creation process with that in mind. Now, I don't actually know much about the professional character creation process, or how, or at least how it's taught in art schools, but I do know a little bit of how the beginning goes, which is silhouettes, getting those shapes, which you saw me doing earlier in this video. I started by making some silhouettes that were in different poses to mess around with the shapes that would make up Wyvern. And I focused on the head shape because I struggle a lot with head shapes. And the body movement. I wanted her to be fluid like a shadow and give off the essence of shifting around. I don't quite think I got that, seeing as how I couldn't quite mesh a concrete concept, or rather a concrete form with a shifting form. I didn't quite know what I wanted to do. So I don't really think it came across properly, but I can only go up from here, right? More practice with Wyvern, I think she'll finally get the essence I want of her. But anyways, once I felt confident with the overall silhouettes and the overall shapes, I had wanted to explore her face more. Now, the style that I had initially wanted her to do her in, you will see later in this video, it was a more simplistic style because I wanted her to be easy to draw so I could draw her anywhere. But to explore all her facial features, I figured, well, why don't I do a more semi-realistic painterly style, just so I can understand the underlying shapes. And so I did, as you can see. It also has the side effect of being slightly creepy, which I like. I very much like. But it also gave me some ideas for her personality. So she's not completely developed right now. She's not very far along in her development as a character. Her shape is there. Her purpose is there. I have a little bit about her personality. I wanted to make a mascot that was rather approachable. Now, it doesn't have to be happy-go-lucky, bubbly, or like a calm thing to be an approachable mascot. It has to look good, it has to be interesting, intriguing, but I wanted her to be kind of the embodiment of the energy that I would bring to this channel while also still being her own character. So her personality originally was kind of bubbly, friendly, you know, a little standoffish, but not hesitant to talk if someone were to approach her. But seeing the creepy side made me realize, like, hey, she's a shadow demon, essentially. She's gotta have something else to her. So she's got a little bit of that underlying rage and fury hidden away from the world. She'll develop a lot more as things go on. I hope to accentuate the creepiness as well as the outgoingness, the friendliness, as well as the anger. She'll develop much more as we go along. It'll kind of be like a little community thing to see how she goes. Anyways, back to her features. I wanted her to be kind of featureless in a lot of senses, so she doesn't have a nose, she doesn't have a mouth. The only openings on her face are her eyes, which are very large, very glowing, so I can still make her expressive without any of the other typical expression features. She can create more facial features if she needs to, but she doesn't usually need to. This is also the point at which I decided to make her bald. I had initially wanted to give her flowing hair to give that shadow fluidity, but it had made the silhouettes kind of undefined, and I didn't quite know how to make hair. I still struggle with hair, so I didn't quite know how to make it not like just make the silhouette all a blob. I didn't know how to make it break it up. Maybe I'll try again in the future and make her hair kind of ethereal and constantly moving, but not yet. I actually really like her as being bald. So at the end, after I'd finished that, I move on to what you see now, which is trying out the more simplified cartoony style that I had wanted to mostly draw her in which I also added some different features to her design, where I gave her freckles on her shoulders and her thighs and her face. I think on her face. We'll see. It might change. And I also gave her a little bit of a belly, because shadows are two-dimensional, but they certainly look like they have infinite volume and depth. So I figured I could round out her, the volume of her design by giving her a little bit of tummy. I also thought it was very cute. And I might not have accomplished everything I wanted to with her, but as a first concept I was immensely pleased, and I've been pleased enough to not really redesign too much about her. I wanted to keep her design simple in color scheme and shape so that she was easy to reproduce, and I wanted to make her easy for me to draw in a lot of different circumstances. I've already used her once as a 200 watcher raffle on DeviantArt. She was there to advertise it. So going forward, she'll definitely be going through some refining, especially as I improve my skills and I find more confidence in my style. I'll probably be drawing her new techniques. I might do her for some experimental stuff. We'll see. And I definitely want her to be a staple in the channel. So she's gonna be around to cement her in place as a mascot. I'll be using her for Twitch notifications, animations, emotes, YouTube videos that need a little more visual stimulation, thumbnails, banner. I'll probably be making stickers, prints, maybe even merch if we ever get that far in this. Oh, one last little tidbit about her name. I had once considered rebranding myself as Wyvern. I didn't like it. It wasn't as good as Studio Shadows, but I still I still liked it as itself. So I figured Mascot could get the name. Anyway, that's it for the video. Thanks so much for sticking around to the end and watching. If you enjoyed the video, you can leave a like or a comment if you want. I like constructive criticism, I like feedback, and I love responding to comments and engaging with you guys. I post videos every Wednesday-ish, so if you want to keep up, you can subscribe and turn on notifications. I also stream every Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday on Twitch as Studio Shadows, where I do art in real time, and sometimes I play games with my friends. I always respond to chat. It's one of my favorite things to do is engage with an active chat. Anyways, thanks again. I'll see you guys next week. Bye!